guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here to talk about my favorite historical romance authors of all time. Now, I've done my favorite old school historical romances. I'm pretty sure I've done my top 10 just historical romances of all time, but I'm here to talk about the authors. Now, some of these authors are newer to me, or they're books that I've loved that they've written, but the only stipulation for these is that I've had to read at least 2 books by the author in order to officially name them a favorite. And yes, I've read at least 2 of all these authors, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them are really obvious. Let me know what you think are going to be on this list, and if I'm missing anybody, let me know as well. But I have my top 10, but I want to start out with my 3 honorable mentions who did not make this list, and it's so hard not to include these in my top 10, but I only had room for 10, and these authors are amazing. So the first one that didn't make it is Maya Banks, mostly because I only have 6 of these to read, and I've read 5 out of the 6, and I have not read the last one because I've been pushing it off. I'm pretty sure, unless there's only 5. Maybe there's only 5 and she hasn't published a 6. Maya Banks is having health issues, and so she has not written in years, and so the last book to one of these series has still not been written, but I've loved the ones that I've read, but I'm pretty sure I've only read 3 or 4 because I don't want to finish them because I don't want to run out of them, but I really love these. She writes great Highlander romances. They all have gorgeous covers, and they remind me, this one specifically reminds me a lot of Outlander, and they're just like, if you want a good Scottish romance, read them. One of hers has a deaf heroine, and it is amazing, so check these romances out if you haven't yet. But I love Maya Banks, but she's not in my top 10. Another one I love dearly, but it's more hit or miss for me, is Eloisa James. Like, this one, 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love this book, but her Wild of Lindau Castle series is just okay, because I normally give them maybe like 4 stars each. A couple might have been 5, but it's hard for her books to be absolute 5 out of 5 stars for me, and so that's why she's not in my top 10, though I do love her books dearly. This one is just super angsty too. I talk about it in my beginner's guide to historical romances. Like, if you're new to the genre, you should pick this up because she's an American heiress and 2 brothers want her, and it's so good. But I've only read that other series by her. I really want to get to her fairy tale series because I know Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life, I believe, read the Beauty and the Beast one, and she really liked it, so I'd love to get to that series, but she is definitely an honorable mention. And then this author as well, I've read her books but don't love them, except for I adored this one. I think this was in my list of my favorite historical romances of all time. It's Sarah McLean, 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake. I have only, though, also read, I've read this entire series. I loved them. They're really good, but I think this one's the only one I gave 5 stars in this series. The other 2 I gave 4, but her Bare Knuckle Bastard series is not my favorite. I was reading it when I was like newer to historical romance, so I read it like 2 years ago, I think, and I didn't love it, but I think I would love her other 2 series. I keep on downloading the audios from my library and never getting to them, but I have to read them. But this one is so good. We have a spinster having a list she has to get done, and a rake helps her, and it's just amazing. I really love how the series follows siblings. We have twin boys and then their half-sister, and it's great, but I'm pretty sure she's the half-sister. But the series is great, but she's not on my top 10. Alright, these are in no particular order, but the first one should come as no surprise. Kerrigan Byrne was probably one of the first that I became absolutely obsessed with. The Highwayman is probably her most popular, but it's only the first book in the series. I got to actually interview Kerrigan Byrne for one of our historical romance readathon rounds on Instagram, and it was amazing. I love talking to her. This one is very tragic. It's also my dark historical romance recommendation video. Our heroine loses really the love of her life when she was young. They knew that they were just like destined to be together, but he died, and so she has taken on the identity of a widow. Like, she says she's a widow because he died, and she works for Scotland Yard, and then she is kidnapped by a highwayman, and it is amazing. I really love the rest of the series. I really want to read, though, her indie published stuff because I haven't read it yet. I do own a couple, but she also has a really good ghost novella, and I just love everything she writes. It's either 4 or 5 stars, like, no question, so she's definitely on this list. This next author is actually going to be on my favorite authors I've discovered in 2021, and I don't know why I keep on thinking I read this like years ago. I read it like in February, which feels like years ago, but I was like, how have I not been reading this author longer than that? And that is Scarlett Peckham. The Rake Hess was really, either people loved it or hated it. No one can agree on Scarlett Peckham, but her writing just is flawless to me, and her characters are, and I absolutely love this book. And then I went and read The Duke I Tempted, and I really love that as well. The heroine in there has like a greenhouse, and she's hired to help make this ball like a lavish garden, and it was really cool, and she fell for the Duke. But in this one, she's a rake hess, so she has a reputation of getting around, and the hero is a single father widower who is an architect, and it is amazing. And she is trying to show society that one of the people that she had an affair with, who also has that reputation, is like high social class, does what he wants in society, has so much respect, and people slander her name all the time because she's a rapist. She's writing a book about it, and I just loved everything about this book. I loved the cover too, and we were supposed to get book 2 this year, but like it just never happened and no one said a word, so I don't know if we'll get book 2, but I love Scarlet Peckham. The next one is no surprise, and I feel like, well, the next 2 are on everybody's lists. Everybody loves these authors, and that's Lisa Kleypas. I think this was one of my first books by her. The first one I ever read was Secrets of a Summer Night. I could not even tell you the plot of that book. I forget. That was like 4 years ago that I read this, but I read this one as one of our group reads for the Historical Romance Readathon, and this one shocked me so much. I really loved it. It is a revenge plot, and she is trying to like work for a hero to get revenge on him, but falls in love. The revenge plot doesn't take up too much time. It resolves fairly quickly, but I love this as the beginning of the Bow Street Runner series. And then in the series is an amnesia romance that I was obsessed with, and so Lisa Kleypas quickly became one of my favorite authors. I've now read the first 3 in the Summer Night series, the Secrets of a Summer Night series, and I've read a handful of her other books, but I have so much of her backlist to catch up on, but I'm excited. I really enjoyed Mine Till Midnight, and I have to continue that series, but I feel like I'm gonna love book 2 so much that I haven't read it yet because I feel like I'm gonna love it. Just like the angst we got from them in book 1, I was just like, they're gonna be perfect, but I'm scared because I don't want it to be over, but I love her books. The next one is one everybody has on their list as well. That's Tessa Dare. Tessa Dare's books are just so fun and easy to get through. I always recommend her books to people just getting in the genre who want something that reads really contemporary, and these are, they have the Castles Ever After series and the Spindle Cove series. The Spindle Cove series is pretty hit or miss for me. Like, I absolutely adore half of those books, and then half of them I gave 3 stars. So the Castles Ever After series, though, I think I gave most of them 4 or 5 stars. Romancing the Duke is adorable. All these women, I think, like inherit castles. When a Scot Ties a Knot is one of my favorites in this series, where she's writing letters to this pretend Scottish man in the military, and it ends up being a real person. He's been getting her letters, and he comes back and says, hey, we're gonna get married, right? And so these are so fun. We have lots of brooding heroes. We have a brooding blind hero in this book, and she inherits this crumbling castle. This is also in my video of historical romances for beginners, which I of course will link down below if you want to watch that. But this one, this author, I know I can pick up a book and love it. Her Girl Makes Dupe series is probably her most popular, with like the Wallflower Wager, the Duchess Deal, right? The 4th book of that series is not coming out yet, and it's been over a year, so I don't know when she'll publish it, but I'm excited for when Tessa Dare has more books. The next one I can finally say is a favorite author because I read another book by her last month, and that is Julie Garwood. The Secret and the Bride are just so good. She's an old school historical romance author. She really only writes suspense now, but these are Scottish romances. We have very domineering heroes, but very headstrong heroines. And this one, he's the laird of a clan, has to come and help escort her to his clan because her best friend's about to give birth. She helps out, and she doesn't let people tell her what to do, and I love that. And in The Bride, she has to marry him as a marriage of convenience by directive of the king, and she definitely does not let him walk all over her and is really headstrong, and they butt heads, and he is definitely an alpha hero in that, but I love her books and I can't wait to read more. Then I have Joanna Shupe. Her books are so good, and they're mostly American historical romance, which is I really love. They take place in America, and so the women don't strictly follow society standards. A lot of her women go against what people want women to do in society, and that's what I love about her books. And we have mostly working class men in her books, because in The Rogue of Fifth Avenue, he is a lawyer, and we have like a gambling hell owner. I think he's like someone in the mafia, and then in this one, he's definitely lower class, and she asks him, this is The Lady Gets Lucky, she asks him to teach her lessons of seduction, and she's actually a chef in this one, and so the women usually want to go out and do something with their lives and change people's lives, and so she's a chef in here. In her other series, they're all sisters, and they all are trying to do different things in society as well, which I really loved, and getting in trouble in the process, but hers have such great heroes and heroines, so of course I had to include her on this list. The next one should be no surprise if you've been following me at all for the past like 3 months, and that is Lorraine Heath. She has easily become one of my favorite historical romance authors, and I've been devouring every single book she's written. I just read the entire Scoundrels of St. James series in November, all 4 books. They were amazing. This book made me cry. This is The Duke and the Lady in Red, and hers just have really angsty romances. I just finished also The Earl Takes All, which is super angsty. And The Earl Takes All, he has to pretend to be his brother because his brother dies and his wife is pregnant, but she's already had 3 miscarriages, so the brother's like, promise to be me so that she can see this pregnancy through and isn't heartbroken and lose the baby, and so he has to pretend to be his brother and be married to her and falls in love with her, and it's so good. And in this one, he sees her across the ballroom and is like, she's the woman I want, but she's trying to take care of a family family, and so she sees him as a mark to get money out of. She gets money out of him, is on her way to Scotland. He stops her and finds her and says, fine, spend a week with me and I'll give you the money, and he's very angry, and it's so good. There's a side character in here that literally just made me cry so hard when I was reading it. I loved it so much. Lorraine Heath just writes, like I said, super emotional and angsty historicals, and I need to read them all. Then we have Stacey Reid. I've read the 2 in this series and a couple of her indie published romances. I think this series though is my favorite, and in this one he is a scarred hero. She needs to find a suitable husband or prospect in order to get her sister's good prospects, so she decides to announce that she's engaged to a duke who has not been seen in society in years, so that she gets attention and gets her sister's attention, and they'll be more willing to have people propose to them. And so the duke finds out, and he's a recluse. He hasn't been out in society in years, and he's like, I need to meet this woman. So he shows up in society, meets her, and propositions her to spend time with him on his estate, and he'll continue with the plan, and it is amazing. It's so good. I did like the second one not as much as I love this one. Also, the audiobook narrators are really annoying for these books, so I did listen to the audio of this one, but I physically read the second one because I could not do the audiobook narrator. But these are amazing. I love Stacey Reid. Then, you guys know me, I had to include Jennifer Ashley. The Madness of Lord and Ian Mackenzie like changed my life last year. This series, specifically the first 4 about the siblings, is amazing. We have Ian in this one. He's on the autism spectrum, and I loved his relationship with Beth. This made me realize I loved widow romances as well, where the female is a widow and she can just do whatever she wants in society because she's not held back anymore because she's been married already. I love this so much. Very dark though, with what Ian had to go through in his childhood because he is autistic, because people didn't understand it and took advantage and put him in like insane asylums to keep him quiet about things, and it was miserable for him, and I just love him so much. Then all the siblings get books as well. I don't love the books like after this, like 5 and 6 I've read, and I didn't love them, but the original 4 are amazing, and I love Jennifer Ashley, and she has novellas too with them, and they're amazing. I have to end off this video with another historical romance author that you guys know I'm obsessed with, and that is Beverly Jenkins. I actually did an entire guide to Beverly Jenkins on my channel. I'll link that down below. She is just amazing. I love her historical romances. There's just so much history in these, but also really angsty romances and usually like a murder plotline happening. She loves to throw that in there. Usually the romance in her books ends about like halfway through, and then we have the rest dealing with like murder mysteries or like someone trying to kill someone. And so her first 2 books, Indigo and Night Song, are literal perfection. I love those books so much. 5 out of 5 stars. Such good romances that you're just like, I'm obsessed. The men in her books are amazing. Like in Night Song and in Indigo, they were just undoubtedly obsessed and in love with the heroines and would do anything to get them, and they were amazing. This one though is one of my favorites. It is book 2 in the series, and it is an accidental pregnancy, which like, hello, I hate those books, but I love this one because she's a sex worker and he's one of her clients, and he gets her pregnant, and so she doesn't want anything from him, but his mother is hilarious in here, and she has her own overarching plot in the 3 books in the series. They're all about 3 brothers. The third one's a pirate romance. The first one was okay. I think I gave the one 4 stars, but books 2 and 3 were amazing in the series, and I just love it. And the woman is the pirate in the 3rd book. So check out Beverly Jenkins if you haven't. I just love her book so much, and I'm making way through her backlist because I need to read everything she's written. And those are my favorite historical romance authors of all time, my top 10 with 3 honorable mentions. So let me know down below who your favorite historical romance authors are. If you think I forgot anybody, let me know. I'd love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.